Welcome to our panel, to our round table, or whatever we're going to call it, which is titled Challenges for Building Computational Models of the World's Musical Heritage. We now have some valuable speakers here at the table. Let me introduce them. Sören Six. My name is Polina Prutzkova, Emilia Gomez, Paco
Gomez.
But
we are not
but you're not related. Okay. And Olivier Lartillon, sorry. And please, this is an open discussion, so if you have anything to say, you're very welcome. If you prefer to speak Spanish, please do that, and someone will help with translation. We have 3 questions that we would like to talk about today, and we would start with the first one, which we formulated in the following way: how to foster collaboration between researchers from different disciplines, including musicologists, musicians, engineers, and others. We are lucky enough to have musicologists in this room, and I think we have seen a great number of examples during these 2 days of collaborations working or not working between musicologists and, say, computational people. So it would be great if we could address this topic all together. Shall we start with Olivier?
I was not prepared with this question, so.
Okay, I would like to start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I propose a change of name. The computational people sounds a little bit scaring to musicologists somehow, and I would propose quantitative musicologists. That's what we are. Yeah, really. There are, as you know very well, there are two worlds. One is dominated by qualitative methods in musicology, basically anthropology, social studies, cultural studies, etc. And then we have the computational world, if you like, where we have very few people with both backgrounds, which is a pity because one cannot understand the language of the other. And some of the people, as you pointed out yesterday during dinner, they think that they can search everything and they pay little attention to the music itself. So there are prejudices from both sides. And from my point of view, there are a strange attitude by which the computational people don't study musicology, or don't bother to learn the language and the methods from the qualitative people, say, and the other way around also. So in order to foster those collaboration, we should learn from each other. But for the time being, I don't think that change of attitude. Maybe by using the expression quantitative musicology would go further. Yesterday, when we were having the INFLA conference, I felt, like kind of sad because some people presented unbelievable annotated music, which was such a cumbersome work, really, and they weren't aware of the wonderful tools that on the computational side we can put at their disposal. But after talking with some of them, well, yes, we like your tools, but they didn't seem like we are going to use them. We are going to learn them. So here you have the first prejudice that we could discuss. So for example, it's not here. That was that woman who were doing this work on Morente and Chacon, where she annotated all kind of melismas, portamenti, very detailed work. And the problem is, I don't know how many works she will be able to analyze in her lifetime. Not many at that level of detail. So that's first discussion topic, if you like.
The problem was also that the tools that are available are sometimes really hard to grasp for normal musicologists.
I agree with you.
That's also a problem, I believe. That sometimes really you have to almost be a computer scientist to use the tools that are available. It's just not the fact that you don't see the value in it, but if you have to have a Python C compiler and MATLAB bindings for some kind of thing that you want.
But that's changing, right?
That's
changing. I've seen several nice interfaces.
I think that's a good point. The point is that we should do pay more effort to make the tools accessible to people.
Tools and to market them.
And to do tutorials or user guides so that people can really use it. I'm the first one who do not do it, but I think the problem is also that the technology is maybe not ready, so things are not working 100% perfectly, and also there's a gap between the kind of descriptions that experts may do and the kind of descriptions we can do with the technology we have. So this gap is so large, then it's very difficult to work together.
I think we need to say something.
Well, I think in fact what I was going to say we're sort of already said, but I guess maybe perhaps to reiterate. So it's made me think of an example from the field of classical philosophy and classical studies. I have a friend who's doing his postdoc in this area, and he said that the field was revolutionized when a piece of software came out which included texts from all remaining fragments in ancient Latin and Greek. And essentially this tool allowed you to search for any word or phrase and so until then no researcher could say this appears only 3 times in the entire literature of remaining fragments from classical music, and now they can do it, and it's a simple interface and it's clean and it's reliable because they know that it contains everything. And so I think this highlights perhaps 2 things that we lack in our field. A, perhaps the tasks that we're dealing with are harder than just, let's say, very basic text information retrieval. So we can't get this 100% performance. And so if a musicologist is analyzing a piece and they really need to describe every element in the piece, then maybe an algorithm that works 80% of the time is, they can make statistical claims, like in 80% of the time we observe this, but maybe what they need 100%. So I think that maybe in some tasks we have this challenge of, even 80 or 90% is not enough. And then the other thing which you mentioned is that, a lot of the things we do never get out there. We publish a paper, we're happy, and we move on to the next topic.
I agree with you. I think that the main reason not to write a nice interface is a pressure for publishing. That's my feeling. So you got the core of your algorithm, you just throw it out, and you are not going to waste some time to
your
write.
thesis is on usability, then no.
Well, in that case, I agree.
No, but you're not. I mean, it's a question. It's a matter of time. And
it's a matter of time.
3 or 4 years to do your PhD, then you're not going to dedicate half a year to developing an interface to your algorithm.
That's true. And documentation is a problem as well.
Daryl?
I'd like to make an analogy with the field of bioinformatics. There you can publish a tool and you can get a Nature Genetics publication. In our field there's no such forum. And the other thing is we don't have funding to support people.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Support people to
develop.
write the code and the interface. We just don't have this. it's a real problem. I don't know what the solution is.
And there's also a problem that most of the projects are short term. There's no support after the PhD student who wrote the software leaves. It's on a website somewhere of a university that's cancelled maybe in a few years. There's some versions still running, downloadable on the internet, but that's about it sometimes.
And finally on Paco's original proposal, the word quantitative doesn't seem quite right to me. It implies something that we're measuring, something that we're evaluating.
I mean, if you read epistemology books, they talk about this. That's a standard term. I agree with you, but technology is a little bit scaring for musicologists sometimes.
Yeah, but
so you started from the position that computational musicology is not a good.
I agree that computation is scary. For instance, here we have the PhD program, and we have a course on computational modeling of flamenco music, and we didn't have any student because they were scared, like, computation, oh! But then Jose Miguel said we should call it more like technology applied to the study of flamenco, and then it was better understood. So, I mean, sometimes when you see workshop on computation and music, people, or computational music theory, and some musicologists do not.
I didn't understand that. That's one of the motivations for your
No. I mean, one of my motivation to use that quantitative term is because in epistemology, there is a classical division between quantitative methods, qualitative methods, ethnographic and autoethnographic methods. So that would be familiar to them. I think that computational, they mean that they have to be that the musicologists have to be programmers, which is not the case, but they think so in many cases. Also, technology, to me, it's a matter of semantics. It sounds like you are a user, a final user, and you don't have to understand anything about the quantitative part, which is also wrong. You have to understand, I mean, there is some feature in music that can be measured, and you have to understand that, and not only use I don't know, that tool as a final user. So it should be, okay, you have to be a final user, but also understand what you are doing with that tool, right? That was my point.
Can I open it up to the musicologists here? So what is the application that is going to revolutionize your work?
Don't hide.
I
would say ¿qué tipo de metodología? A mí me parece, para mí ha sido un descubrimiento hace algunos años.
Okay, I'm going to translate. So for this kind of methodology has been a discovery for me.
Y no me ha representado un problema, pero sí entiendo que hay personas a los que esto se le hace.
It wasn't a problem to me, but I understand for some others it could be a problem.
Yo creo que hay que hacer métodos cualitativos que se midan.
He says that we should carry out a qualitative method that can be measured. Well, Olma was first.
Yes.
Then speaking as a musicologist, I think you can write all kind of software on pitch, on tempo, on rhythm, on timbre, on whatever, but that always the musicologist should be able to make his interpretation and adaptation of the results. I think you should strive for automated analysis that gives you 100% this is it. I think you just give suggestions, and that as a musicologist you have to make a decision, and this will give trust to the musicologist, because I think he's a bit scared. He trusts on his ears. So if the suggestion, it's like the tool Emilia presented, you see the suggestion and you can work maybe double time just because you have this guideline, and then you have the final decision in the hands of a musicologist.
Yeah, I also agree that we should build assisted, like computer assisted music description tools. That if you have a binary and it gives you something automatically, you cannot control how is it done. But as a way to provide help for some tasks which are, but I think one problem is that it's very difficult to communicate. Sometimes even in the language we use, we don't talk with the same kind of words, and sometimes it's difficult to find a common task we want to perform. And I think the key point will be to define small projects, always involving people from different backgrounds, and trying to work on very easy topics, very simple things, and try to and it's a problem also for us. Maybe from the technology point of view, we're doing very simple things, because and from the musicology point of view, they are doing very abstract things, and it's very difficult to meet in the middle and say, okay, we will work on that, exactly on that.
Manuel has something to say. Louder, please.
We have the recorder here.
Yes, approach. Come closer.
No, quería decir que la música es muchas cosas, no solamente es una. Y tenemos la suerte de poderla cuantificar, de poderla cualificar y de poderla crear o interpretar. Por eso mismo creo que un sistema puede ofrecer mayor riqueza si unimos los tres.
Okay. So he thinks that music is quantitative, qualitative, also creative, and a good system should integrate all of three.
Y luego, por otro lado, ahora mismo vivimos en un mundo en el que la multidisciplinariedad es súper importante y especial.
So in our current world, multidisciplinary is very important. We should practice it.
Por ello que si hacemos un trabajo de música, tenemos que cuantificar, cualificar, y algo que no se dio aquí, que es el hecho creativo performativo. Emocional también.
And also, well, again, the three aspects: quantitative, qualitative, and also creative. And the latter term means performative studies, for example.
I would like to add my 2 pence to the subject of education. I think we have to think about how we can educate computational musicologists. How can we educate people who are musicologists but are literate in using the software that we produce? Or the other way around, how can we teach programmers about musicology so that their knowledge is advanced enough to be in this area in between? It seems to me that currently we have this problem of the gap between the two worlds. We still, as much we try, we still are in one of the two worlds. It's really hard to be in between. And even if you manage, then you're kind of, you get problems with getting your PhD or getting your stuff published. So we need to look for small ways, as you said, small ways to connect these two worlds. And I hope that in future we are going to see this kind of researcher, computational musicologist emerge. Also because I think that the younger students coming to the university today, they are all to some extent computer literate. If we work with older generations, don't be offended, please. I'm not meaning anyone in particular, but generally for older generations of musicologists, using computer was kind of a taboo, maybe for many people. Today, younger students, they don't have that. They're easy with using a computer, with installing something and using it. So we could set on that, and I think all of us, if we can contribute something to teaching the students, it's the best thing we can do to advance.
I would say a couple of things there. First of all, if you are in between, you are rejected by the two worlds, right? And the second is that those young generation, not afraid, literate in computers, are taught by the old generation, who in their daily work they don't use computer for analysis or whatever. So those young generation, they may be literate in computers at home, but they are not using computers as analysis tools.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there's also this community of people working with music who don't know anything about music, and then they publish a paper on music, and they don't, I don't know, but they don't consider the music material, for instance, they are working on. So I think it's an education, as Paulina said, in both sides.
Absolutely.
We should teach programmers, or at least people who are working with music, really to music, or a little bit on musicology. And this is something, and I agree that the problem is when you work in music and technology, and then for your PhD, for your position, you have to publish only or do work with this very technical in my case. And if I do something more musical, so it's very difficult to be multidisciplinary. That's why my idea is that we should build small teams of people, but each one should be working on their stuff. We should never try to be working on things we don't know. So we should try to specialize in our stuff, but collaborating or doing joint work with other people.
There is a journal that Stanitaakis started. What is it called exactly? I'm not sure. CIM, I guess. What was that? The idea of the journal was to publish multidisciplinary works in computation and musicology, and there should be at least two authors coming from different areas for these publications. I don't know how many publications they actually get, but it sounds like a really promising direction.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah.
So if you think you have a project like that, consider publishing maybe. Okay.
Olmo?
Well, we just got acceptance for the SIM conference, not for publication, but for session conference. So it works, and it had to be multidisciplinary. But anyway, what I wanted to say is maybe it's also just a matter of time. I think if new professors and young professors who tasted of the potential of computational approaches are starting to teach more and more, I think it will change over time. But anyway, we have to push it a little bit. So two things. I think it will start up sooner or later. We have to do anything we have in our potential just to boost it a bit. But it won't be very easy. A nice example is that we have a new conference, and you would be happy with it. It's, I think, the second edition. It's next month in Vancouver. It's called AAWM. It stands for Analytical Approach in World Music. So that's great. That's our sector, you would say. But if you hear the context, it's so sad. They have split up from the ethnomusicology, the famous publication. So what happened is, instead of going together and building something, they split up. So it's getting worse. So
well, I think that this workshop should be full of people, and it's not. And we don't know who will organize next year, so there is still a long way to go.
Okay. On this sad note, I would suggest that we move to the next question.
May I contribute? Sorry.
Yes.
May I contribute to this
yes, please.
first, because this nice discussion gives ideas that I wanted to discuss about this different aspect. First, for the problem of quantitative, qualitative, I have the feeling that quantitative aspects might be a little limited in the way that in the computational musicology there are some parts that that could be considered as purely qualitative, such as in the example of if you want to make simply automation of motillic analysis, you want to have a very nice description of the structure in the music. It's true that it could be interesting to count the number of motifs and things like that, but maybe it's not the center of that such topic. It's just to get interesting musical structure.
Well, I would say that that idea of quantitative is very narrow.
Okay.
Because counting things, I mean, maybe 40, 50 years ago, it was what the quantitative musicology did. I don't think so. They did more things. But now the concept have, because of the computers and the technology and all the knowledge that we have, the concept has evolved quite a lot.
Okay.
Right. So I insist. I chose that term because it's normal in musicology and I wanted to choose something that it is familiar with it.
Just to continue this discussion, I see that the example of quantitative aspect that I was thinking is very simple, but I was wondering if we consider still this problem of motivic analysis, we could say that if we want to build such model, maybe there are some approach that will use some kind of logic, and based on this logic of finding a closed pattern mining and so on, could make a complex algorithm that doesn't really use probability or numbers, and so that would be use some kind of logic that would be more like qualitative in that sense. Well, it's getting maybe a little difficult to qualitative in the sense that it's not about finding numbers, using mathematics.
I'm going to pass the floor to Cristina Cruz. She's anthropology. What do you understand by qualitative methods? Basically, interviews, right, and things like that. Yeah, field work. Well,
Como un ejemplo, estamos trabajando, hay un grupo de investigación en Cádiz que estudia el baile flamenco desde las metodologías de la disciplina deportiva.
Okay. ¿Estás en ese grupo? No, okay, sorry. There is a group of researchers doing research on flamenco dancing.
Yeah, from the perspective of sport.
Yeah, from the perspective of sports.
Tienen un proyecto de investigación sobre aplicación de esfuerzo a el baile flamenco y en concreto lo hacen sobre el zapateo.
So they are studying the effort that they had to put for dancing for the footwork, right?
Exactamente. Entonces, ese trabajo que es netamente cuantitativo, cuando nosotros lo tomamos como referencia y cuando colaboramos y aplicamos los resultados, por ejemplo, en las historias de vida, podemos hacer un desarrollo.
Okay, so initially they are measuring things, so it could be considered as a quantitative method project, but then they take those results and perform a qualitative analysis.
Desde la perspectiva de cómo las intérpretes, por ejemplo, del baile femenino, han evolucionado históricamente a partir de una serie de generaciones en relación con la aplicación de esfuerzo a su baile y con la producción y la creación y las mayores o menores capacidades de generar productos de una u otra naturaleza.
Okay, so and then they look into the historical and other qualitative aspects of the whole thing.
No me has traducido bien.
That's too long.
Pero perdono porque es una hora. Pero, por ejemplo, la afirmación que hacía antes, no recuerdo, no lo veo ahora, respecto a cómo la cuestión de la interdisciplinariedad es que está en la música, no está en los investigadores.
The music itself is interdisciplinary. It's not a matter of researchers.
Cualquier aspecto puede ser analizado desde una o varias disciplinas para integrar un objeto de estudio y no al revés.
Yeah, so you have your object of study, and there are several disciplines studying that object, and they have their own methodology. And yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be discussing that because it's clear that mixed research methods is the answer. So you have a research question. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have a research question, and that research question may have quantitative qualitative or whatever part,
but
and you have to apply the pertinent methods.
But
Yo aplico plantilla, lamentablemente no tengo herramientas informáticas, pero aplico plantilla cuantitativa al análisis del ritual flamenco.
So, although she doesn't use computers, she applies quantitative templates to what's it?
Análisis de la fiesta, por ejemplo.
To feast analysis.
yeah, so I
De proxemia, de rotación, de circularidad, de posición específica. Esto se puede aplicar perfectamente con plantillas que son cuantitativas, pero la mirada.
Okay, so she uses several techniques that I don't know how to translate into English, and yeah, also it's normal to use all kinds of methods.
And it was good to mention this initiative about this journal of interdisciplinary music studies, but also so there is a conference on interdisciplinary, and now there is this society of interdisciplinary music studies.
I didn't
where
know.
maybe
I didn't know.
No, I didn't know that.
But if you attended to some of the conference, you could be the founding members of this society. You didn't receive the email by Richard Pankot, I guess.
We attended the one in Thessaloniki,
Okay.
Flamenco studies.
but I didn't receive the email.
No, me neither.
Okay,
Maybe
we'll
you
see
can
what's
forward.
happening. Yeah.
Okay.
What I like with this initiative about interdisciplinary musicology is that Richard Pankot and the other really want to have always collaboration with two authors of humanities and technologies. Maybe something that I feel a little problem with that is this constraint of always having someone from humanities and someone from technology. So it means that there won't never be a kind of thinking that is in between. But I wonder if now with more education and if we have students that can learn both really engineering and musicology, that can have experts really in that interdiscipline that would think in a way that will be in between, because when you have two experts on the humanities and technologies, maybe there will always be a dialogue, but something missing the thinking that takes into account these two aspects. But I guess with education, so on, we could think about that there could be an interdiscipline that is not really collaboration, but it's maybe like bioinformatics. Maybe before it was, or some disciplines were two disciplines, and then after some maturation it gets into one discipline. And I would hope that interdisciplinary musicology would be this also discipline.
Great.
Joaquin wanted to say something, yeah?
Para incrementar la colaboración,
To increase the collaboration,
me parece que es muy importante tener un lenguaje común.
it's very important to meet in a common language.
Y eso significa
Thank
que
you.
el experto no actúe
And
como único experto.
that means that the expert doesn't act as a unique expert, as the only expert,
O dicho de otra manera, que el ingeniero tiene que estudiar música
and the engineer has to study music,
y el músico.
and the musician has to study some of computing or
And both
something.
English.
Aunque me gustaría decir que yo creo que el 90% de la gente que trabaja en nuestro campo somos justo gente que ha estudiado música y tenemos una pasión por la música, pero la vida nos ha llevado por un camino tecnológico y por lo tanto buscamos justo este campo que combina las dos cosas. No sé hasta qué punto el opuesto pasa en el mundo de los musicólogos.
Okay, so say it in English.
Say it in English, Justin.
So what I was saying is just
Translate
that
yourself.
I think that actually in the specific case of our field, of people that work in music technology, we are, most of us, music enthusiasts that have studied music, and some of us actively perform and play music. And because of our passion for music, we ended up combining our professional career with the field of music. So, and I just said that I don't know to what extent the same happens in the musicology field. That's it.
Okay.
But maybe we can still see a difference between practicing music
It's very,
and then
the
learning
fact that I
music
play the
theory.
guitar doesn't make me a musicologist, of course.
And the same for using
Computers, yeah, and programming.
and being programmer.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can, Paulina?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, just basically one sentence, really, that yes, we are lucky to combine two fields that seem to generate fear by most. We have an anthropologist here. I really heard from why do we actually have a field of ethnomusicology? This is anthropology, to be honest. It's nothing else, but it deals with music, and many anthropologists just say, oh, music, no, I'm not dealing with it. Because if I do, then I will always be told I'm doing it wrong. And to some extent, it's also true to computation. So, well, here we are. Okay, I'm very glad that we had such a fruitful discussion on that question. I think we will have to skip the second one just because we don't have enough time and move to the third one straight away.
Which was the second one? Yes, out of curiosity, because I wanted to write it down.
Then we'll probably have to stay with it for a second.
Okay.
The question was, is it right to focus on single culture studies rather than approach musical phenomena cross-culturally?
Okay. I just wanted to read it.
Okay, so, well, since we've read it, I think we should at least say a couple of things.
Well,
so that,
in my case, we're working with a large data set of African music, and there's no such thing as African music. So the methods we develop have to work cross-culturally, otherwise it wouldn't work for our data sets. So it's just a matter of practicalities, actually. So everything we develop should work for all that music we have, and that includes all the other cultures as well. And it all depends on your research question, of course, if you can use cross-cultural methods to answer your question. But if you are with such a diverse data set as we, you don't have a choice. You have to work cross-culturally with methods that apply on almost anything, any kind of music. So like the pitch class histograms we showed this morning.
and have you ever had the situation where musicologists would tell you it doesn't make any sense?
Well, I have a colleague who is a musicologist, so that's his problem then.
Okay.
I mean, I provide the tools. I'm the computer science guy, so that's how we work together. I provide a tool that works with that music, so I hope it makes sense. I think it makes sense. That's why we work together. I get my instructions and get to know something about musicology as well. So I hope it makes sense.
I think it starts with what is the research question.
Yeah.
So we have this large data set, and this is part of the research question. But if you are focused on a single culture, you can adapt your software towards that, and it probably will work better, and you will have better results. But then you have a different research question. So you can't have both at the same time, I think. And in specific genres of African music where it doesn't make sense to have pitch analysis, it's part of the large data set of 40,000 songs, but they will pop up as irrelevant. Then the pitch histograms are really bad, or we cannot read them, so we can have this deletion. And if you are then working on a single culture out of our database, then the musicologist has to decide whether he can use or not use pitch class histograms. So, but I think both approaches could be fruitful, and they will have different methodologies and different results. But I'm not picking one of them. It depends on the research question and on the data set you are having.
Well, don't you think we might make exactly that mistake? So we give them the tools and say, here are the tools, they work cross-culturally, they work on everything. And then the musicologist, the ethnomusicologist just look and say, well, we are not working cross-culturally, we work on a single culture, and there are reasons for that. It doesn't make sense for us.
But if he's working on a very small, it's a large set and a small focus, then you would deliver a single culture approach. So I think you will always have different approaches and different. So the ethnomusicologist will have to make his selection out of everything that's available, depending on his research question.
So So might that be the reason why the musicologists or ethnomusicologists do not use our tools? Because they do not match their needs.
They're usually focused on single cultures, that's true. So it might be part of the problem to have not investigated or really asked.
I think we should develop tools that work for a particular problem, but without losing the perspective that how can we then extrapolate. For instance, if you develop tools for transcribing flamenco, but then you would like to test or to extrapolate to other kind of singing. But if you want that it works well for your particular repertoire, you have to adapt some of the tools and approaches to that.
And that's why it's also wise to develop tools that give a reasonable, like the transcription thing. You can give a suggestion and then adapt it according to maybe the thing you are researching. So give a good suggestion that automates a lot of it, and then depending on if you're researching flamenco or maybe something else, you can still adapt your transcription tool according to your own needs. I think that's an important property of a piece of software as well, that is just assisting.
I don't understand fully that objection that, maybe it's a prejudice that ethnomusicologists have, but I mean, I have read entire books on the Baroque music in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's many cultures, French Baroque, English Baroque, Spanish Baroque, Italian Baroque, and there's nothing wrong with it. So it's cross-culturally in a sense, and that was perfectly okay in the world of classical music. Why shouldn't we study cross-culture? I mean, I don't know if I agree with you that many ethnomusicologists work on a very particular culture, but there's nothing wrong to look at the cross-culture problem.
Well, but then we definitely depart from being specialists in what we're doing. Don't you think so? So if musicologists and ethnomusicologists choose to focus on a single culture, do you think you can find many specialists in many cultures?
But I would say mixed teams, right? What if you want to I don't know, to study African music, you'll have to have several experts on each culture and integrate them. I mean,
well, you're lucky if you can integrate one at the moment.
Integrate yourself, yeah. But that would be the right track. Otherwise, I mean, you cannot put two guys together without any relation between them.
But wasn't ethnomusicology also called comparative musicology?
It was in the beginning of 20th century.
Yeah.
It's dead. It has been dead for a long time.
Okay, so it's no more comparative.
No.
Okay.
School of
Okay.
But in a way, in my point of view, and I guess the point of view of Monder, my colleague in our project, in a way, it's not normative. We don't have anything against studying a particular culture, because of course it's. But there is something positive in comparing between different cultures, because then it offers a perspective, and even for purely simple computational music analysis tools, instead of you are analyzing let's say classical music, and then once you start comparing with other cultures, then you realize that all the representation you were building were dependent on a particular culture, and then you have to make something more abstract. So there is this idea of more perspective. So then you begin making some criticism of the representation, or you have to make some more abstract representation. So there is this idea of perspective that is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right. Before we run into the risk of comparing apples with oranges, I suggest that we do move to the third question for today, which is which should be the next steps in establishing ethno-music information retrieval, ethno-MIR. So how do we organize ourselves? where are we now, and what can we do in order to move forward? Well,
do it again next year.
okay. Is it a real perspective? How many people would come?
Well, last year I said I would come, and here I am.
Yeah, but I don't know if it makes sense to do a separate meeting or to try to have a special session in the. But this is very difficult, at least. But trying to organize a workshop or satellite workshop in a bigger event. The problem is to find the right place, I think.
But we had a special track now at the ISMIR conference.
Yes, at least we have that.
I mean, MIReS is a trending topic in ISMIR. I mean, last year and then this year, for those who've had applicable submissions, the number of ethnic, is growing. So I think there's definitely should be room for suggesting. I'm sure this year there will be a session on MIR and ISMIR, just based on the number of people working on topics. So
yeah, the only thing the only problem I see is from the reviewers. I mean, the problem I see in ISMIR is the lack of ethnomusicologists in the review panel. So, or the fact that the kind of people that will review the papers. So it's not really interdisciplinary in that sense.
Yeah,
so maybe the conference on interdisciplinary musicology has more musicologists. So in this sense, it will be more interdisciplinary. But the computer or the technological part of this conference is not so fostered. So at the end, it's very difficult to find the right combination. But I mean, we can figure out.
For example, we have this conference, Interdisciplinary Musicology, but they choose a topic every year, and sometimes it's history. Well, I can't go because I don't work on history, and then they have instruments. So I think
and then
I think it's a bad policy because you are losing a few nice admissions.
Yeah, because sometimes there was a dynamic that was created with the conference, and then because of the change of the topics, that maybe.
I mean, what can we do within ISMIR to make ourselves heard?
Yeah. Olmo wanted to say something.
Yeah, maybe before we change a little bit, I have two remarks for on this topic. Looking at this conference, I know it was purely a question of language, but it's a pity that one day everything is about flamenco, and the other day everything is about music information retrieval related research. While it was the intention just having everybody together mixed. And I know it's about language.
Yes.
It's about language barrier. I mean, they don't speak English.
The intention of this conference is by this action a little bit failed.
Yeah,
yes.
I agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something I should take into account. And then,
so I'm afraid also if we organize a special event in a conference, that will be the only one attending this special event, because it happens, for instance, in the computer music theory and the specialization in ICMC. I remember in Barcelona there were only the people working on that, really. So at the end,
And then I will keep on commenting. Sorry, but for your comment now, it was also a pity that ISMIR, the first session on ethnic music, that almost every paper was on pitch. And what happens? Only people stay that are interested in pitch and in ethnic music. So everybody who's working on rhythm or on symbolic things or on other things, they left for. Finally, we have an hour and a half for networking when it's quiet. And understand these people, but because of this very narrow focus of two elements, that's why people leave the audience. So that's a pity, but that happens because the papers were mainly focused on pitch.
And I also think that because at ISMIR you don't have a way to select, to chair before you are chairing. There is no way to say, okay, the program committee should check the variability, but
Yeah.
mostly the papers are rated according to the reviewers, and then they are accepted, and then they try to put it into sessions. And I remember in Kobe we had this session on ethnomusicology and sociology, and there was some kind of things mixed together, and some of them were posters. So I mean, that's the difficulty if the people from the community do not organize the session, that you can have mixed.
Sure should be attracted sooner in
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that would be my proposal, but it's very difficult to implement.
And then the final remark, because there were not so many papers sent in for today, maybe because of this pressure of always having a publication and writing, that you should just ask for a brief abstract, maybe 1 page or 2 pages.
Yes.
Conference Sim does the same. It's 2 pages.
I think there was some misunderstanding because we said minimum 2 pages, maximum 10, because people from the flamenco music wanted to have long things, but it was not very clear.
On abstracts, I think more people would be attracted to
Yes.
send something in, because then it's not that much work, and you have a conference you can go to and present something.
Yes, I think you are right. For next year we should definitively, because we wanted to avoid, Christina and people from Greece asked, we should do some selection, because then it's better to, and we did too much. In order to unify that with INFLA, we did too much selection. So maybe for next edition, people organizing that should just try to be in the middle, that you can send just an abstract, or just an abstract, and even late, or I mean it doesn't matter, but at least if it's worth it to present.
Well, somebody should judge that. I mean, we had the problem with INFLA. It's a starting field, flamenco and research, and we had to carry out some selection on the INFLA part, and that somehow affected to the FMA part, but we didn't have any problems with the FMA part. So it's not a question that length, because it says that maximum 10 pages, you send 6, that's all right too.
Or 2 or 1.
Or even 2, or so. No, as we commented yesterday, I think this is not a formal publication, so people are very busy. They don't have time to come here. Economical crisis, and they want to publish as much as they can, as soon as they can, and this is not the right. I mean, ongoing research discussion. What for? Let's publish.
Yeah, I must say that I liked the day very much today, and the quality of presentations was very, very high, I think. So we even if we are not too many today, we are good. And I think meetings exactly like this one are really important. And to that point, I would like to, I don't know if that's okay if I make it public, Olmo, but I wanted to point to the cost proposal that Olmo was preparing with a couple of us. And I think this is a European proposal where we can get money for exactly these things, for conferences and meetings. And I think we really do need exactly that. So if we all would have money to come to events like this one, it would help enormously, I think.
And I think it's much more productive. I mean, we discarded some papers, so in fact we didn't accept everything that came. It's because we prefer to have less people and less presentations and more discussion. But it's also right that we should have maybe disseminated more, or we should have, I don't know. And yes, I agree. For next time, we should think what is the best way. If we want a small event, or we want more discussion or more interactive event, we don't need to organize really. And if we want to make it open, or just, okay, the people we know, or the people, or if we want to disseminate a lot or not. And I don't know which is the best strategy to follow.
I think we should do everything.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and I think there is nothing wrong actually about us people interested in ethno-MIR coming together during the ISMIR conference for an interest group session.
Maybe we should organize a meeting even
at
ISMIR, even if it's a very short or informal meeting, coffee or something.
Yeah, Darren? I think so.
Darren?
Just to backtrack 5 minutes on Emilia's suggestion. of the two-page abstract. The problem with that is that a real publication is very important now for
Yes.
students, for RAs, for us. So if you do it that way, which is a good idea to get more participation, but some way to follow up with a full paper.
Yeah, and what our idea,
maybe
yeah.
invited papers, invited to submit, invited presentations, invited to submit a full paper in proceedings. I don't know.
Yeah, we also have this special issue now in computational ethnomusicology for the Journal of Non-Music Research. So I take the opportunity to remind you that the deadline is on
June the 20th.
20th of June. I will send the information. So that was our idea, to get the advantage of our meeting to then propose you to submit to this.
This is a wonderful opportunity. We have the most friendly editors we can have.
Yes. So I will send you again the information. If anyone can contribute to that, that would be great. Yeah.
What is the, sorry, very specific, what is the length of paper you're looking for in this
I
journal?
don't know it by heart.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
So maybe a short time plan should be those of you coming to Izmir to organize a session. And I wonder if there is some more musicological conferences maybe Olmo can know, where we can disseminate or at least get together with experts on, I don't know.
I think other ways that we could employ would be doing tutorials in Izmir as well.
Yes.
And try to formulate them in a general way so that we do not only attract our people but also looking for ways to educate MIR people about musicology.
Generating nice data sets is always
Oh yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
is always a good thing to do, and getting some tasks into the MIReS competition or data into the MIReS competition would be very welcome, I think. Like segmentation of African music, a data set with African music segmented would be a very welcome
But then
change, I think.
yeah, but then it doesn't, yeah, maybe.
But just to see how
I don't
well
know the way of getting back those, but you are right that it will be a nice way to evaluate the
Let's
current
just to
technology,
see-
how
just to
does it
see-
work.
Just to see
Yeah.
how bad or well, like
Mm.
the harmony detection on the Beatles data set is a classical
Yeah.
example for this, that they use the same data over and over
Mm.
again and forget sometimes about the rest of the world of music. So getting some data sets together and letting people evaluate their algorithms on it, just not even, I mean, just to see how well it goes.
Yeah.
Would maybe even this already would be a nice way of showing what's
Yeah.
out there.
And I also wanted to ask about these ethnocom Google groups that we have. If you think it's worth it to
It's a bit dead,
keep it, or yeah,
A little bit
or
dead.
we should reactivate it, or
I
so
don't think
on.
it's dead, no, not at all actually. I would say this is the beginning of the whole process.
Yes.
Maybe, and I really hope that we're going to become something like an interest group at Izmir. But for those who might not know about it, there is a Google Groups email list for ethno-MIR interested people, and if you are interested, please let us know. We'll put you on that list.
Okay.
Okay.
What time
Can I
is it?
just ask a question on this this special issue you have coming up? Why did you not decide to call it folk music analysis or computational folk music analysis? You called it computational ethnomusicology.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, because different from the name of today's.
Yeah, because it was for me it was not very clear the distinction ethnic, folk, and traditional music. So if we should put the term folk into the title or not. So then Alan Marsden suggested this
Yeah.
computational ethnomusicology, And we agreed because it's kind of well-known term, and
Yeah, there was a discussion with Alan Marsden about the title, you know, like
so I was
for
not
emails
sure,
and
then
the suitability of the title.
But you are
He was
right
very concerned.
that I am not sure of which should be the best term from if using folk. Okay, so maybe we can.
Thank you very much, everyone. I just would like to mention that this panel was sponsored by the MIReS project, which is a European-funded project aiming at developing a roadmap for establishing
for music in general for music information research. So it's a project they are trying to build the roadmap of music research, and they asked us to provide some feedback on our specific field.